Welcome to Praxis Probiotics Thrive Together interview series. I'm joined today by my dear friend Dena Smiles and my dear friend Matt Wynne. Happy birthday, Matt.
Thank you very much, guys.
It's your 21st birthday today.
Yes, okay.
So yeah, I'm joined by two very special guests who have been working very closely with Praxis Probiotics, and we're going to have a little chat about various things, sort of like probiotic related, and see where the conversation goes, man. We're just going to keep it chill, keep it nice and informal. So I'm just going to start off with Dena. So Dena, when I kind of sparked off Praxis Probiotics about 2.5 years ago, at that time I didn't know you.
No.
And then I think it might have been through Together Against Cancer or through Robert
Oliphant. You sent me a message, actually the year before that.
Yeah.
Asking me if I'd wanted to be involved with an event that you was putting on.
Yes. Which was the Challenge Cancer event, I believe.
Yeah.
So we were raising money for Together Against Cancer. Yeah. And then obviously there's Robert and Sue Oliphant, who run active cancer therapy support.
Yeah.
Who I'm currently trying to raise as much money as possible for with my neurosobriety that I chatted about last week. And we arranged to meet up because I wanted to chat to you about doing an interview.
Yeah.
Which has been long overdue. And here it is. So I don't know, man, I don't want to be too specific, but would you be willing to just say a few words about, all right, your involvement with probiotics? So you've got your own business project, you've been passionate about probiotics for a long time. And you are, a chef. You're an award-winning fermentalist chef. And, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're passionate about food and you're passionate about probiotics. Would you be willing to just give a bit of an intro about how all of that came about? Just let people know a little bit about what your deal is.
So I've always loved food. I grew up at my granddad's side, growing food and making stuff from fresh. Had a massive family, so always, I've always fed people basically on big scales. And after I left my NHS position, I'd got worn down so much physically in my own health, mentally as well as actually physically, from the stress of that kind of lifestyle of working in the NHS, that I read this book called Wheat Belly that really kind of triggered something in me and made me think, oh my God, maybe all of my kind of low-lying depression that I've always had hanging over me and stuff has got to do with my nutrition. And it's not just about kind of the life that we lead, in the society that we're in. And I just went on this massive, huge, hardcore detox thing where I got rid of gluten, I got rid of sugar, I got rid of dairy. I wasn't eating meat in any way, so I didn't need to cut that out. But from doing that, I radically changed really quickly in about 3 months, and I lost loads and loads of weight, and I just suddenly felt bright, and I was, happy and engaging with life in a very different way than I'd ever done before in my life. And I just knew that was down to that. And in that process, I really started getting into looking at fermented foods, probiotics, the impact that food has on your gut and how your gut absolutely influences everything to do with your health. Because, inflammation in the body is what causes dis-ease to a greater extent. And fermented foods and probiotics seem to be the way that you could really address that quite directly. So I started playing about with those things. Went kind of back into chefing on a level where it was just my own pop-up. So I just thought, I was so kind of possessed with how amazing I felt from, changing my diet, that I wanted to kind of spread the word all out. Boy, it was a bit mental because, when you get really into something and you're dead passionate about it, everybody needs to know about it. And that's basically what the journey that I went on. So I started a pop-up kitchen with specifically a view to bringing food to people that was gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and seeing how that could, impact people or whether they were into it or not. That was kind of like about 7-8 years ago, and at that time people were going, what you doing, you're mad, because I was also incorporating like ferments and things and other kind of like herbal medicine type foods and stuff as well. But actually it kind of, people, there was a small kind of groups of people that really got into it. I had a kitchen in Nottingham at a pub called the Old Angel. They just let me have the kitchen, and that's how I just ran my stuff out of there to start with, and I was doing market stalls and things like that as well. So I set up this group called Go Fermental, which then turned into me actually making my own products under Probiotic Love. So yeah, since then that's my mission. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Beautiful, thank you. So can I ask then, so you're saying 7 years.
Yeah.
So like, I'm relatively new to the game. It's been a couple of years. And so like over the course of the last 7 years, I mean, have you noticed anything change in terms of what I mean is like, when you think about a culture, when you think about like maybe the extent to which people are engaging with fermented foods, anything like that whatsoever. When you think
massively.
What have you observed?
Well, I saw kind of like a slow rise of an interest to begin with. And it seemed to be that people were starting to kind of like think about things like gluten-free foods or question like the wheat industry or something like that. Those things were coming first. And then it was more like this veganism started to kind of rise a bit more. And then I would say in the last 2 years, what I've seen with fermented foods and drinks, it's just gone a trajectory like that really quite quickly over the last 2 years. People have really like started to become really conscious of it. And you can see it now, can't you? It's like mainstream media kind of talk about it now and stuff. So you can see it's people started to realise that actually, the nutrition is key to good health. I don't know whether that's because we've just got so saturated with such bad food stuff, which in my personal opinion isn't food, ready meals, processed goods, fast foods, all that kind of stuff. And the rise in kind of ill health and various different, diseases like diabetes and, heart problems, all kinds of things. So you can see the correlation of like, and people I think they're reaching a pinnacle where they're going, gosh, people are realising that this has got something deeply to do with maybe why they're not very well. And having, turning to just medication is not the answer. Tablets are not the answer.
Yeah.
We have to look holistically at ourselves. So.
Okay.
And I think that nutrition's like the key to that to start with.
Okay. So before I come to Matt, I want to come to you very shortly, my friend. But this is coming from somebody who's worked in the NHS, somebody who has had a personal experience with nutrition and fermented food, which it won't be too strong to say has been potentially life-changing.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you're talking about how you saw some bubblings, maybe for the first sort of 5 years of you experimenting and engaging with fermented foods, and then you've seen a sharp rise in the last couple of years. Yeah. So for any viewers at home, which maybe are relatively new to the concept of fermented foods, or associated things like the relevance of gut health, probiotics, etc. Maybe some people that are still not entirely sure what this is all about. I mean, is this just another fad? Like, what is is this something which you personally think is like what level of relevance does it have? As somebody who's worked in the NHS, you're talking about how crucially central it is, how essential it's been to you, like fermented foods.
Yeah.
And you've seen the sharp spike. I mean, are we looking at another fad which is going to fizzle out, or is there something actually really quite significant?
Well, I obviously think there's something very significant about it. You know, that's what I do, and that's what I kind of commit my existence to. Really, it's like a purpose of my life.
So why do you think it's so significant then?
Because I've personally experienced the impact of it, and I've worked with people, loads of people that have experienced the impact of that and the benefits of it and the life-changing benefits of it, you know. So when you've just got that literal kind of, you know, experience right there in front of you, you can't really deny it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there will be people saying it's a fad, you know, but if you look at loads of other cultures around the world and how they incorporate fermented foods into their diets and the longevity in their lives as opposed to the way that we eat and, you know, the kind of shortness of ours and the illness that prevails, you know, it's there. The evidence is there for you to see clearly.
Yeah. So like fermented foods aren't a new thing, are they?
No.
I mean, it's, you know, one thing that I found really interesting.
Ancient way of, you know, eating and sustaining, and also, you know, the manifold in the way that it's kind of like, you know, you can use foods that you have a glut of, for example, and that's a way of preserving those foods, you know. Yeah, there's different kind of approaches to it, but it has always been rooted in some cultures very deeply. You know, you just look at sauerkraut in Germany or kimchi, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's there. And we ferment stuff anyway, you know, breads, cheeses, you know, yogurt's fermented. It's like it's there, but it's so far removed in our culture from the actual roots of what it really is about and how it can really, you know, support your well-being and stuff. We've moved away from that. It's just, I think it's just, we're just coming back to something that's ancient and this, you know, has always been around.
So it's been a part of our nature, it's been a part of our ancestry, it's been a part of our evolution, hasn't it? And I think I think I'm right in saying that it's hard to find anywhere in the world historically that hasn't had fermented foods as a part of their like staple, like as a part of their staple, you know. And even though back in the day people might not have been aware, they didn't need to be aware of the health benefits, they were just directly experiencing them. But primarily maybe one of the key motivations for people fermenting food back in the day was people didn't have fridges, and it was looked at as like maybe first and foremost like a preservation method potentially. But then you're looking at a situation where people are incorporating consistently fermented foods, maybe not being aware of the fact that they're probiotic, that they're teeming with.
I think there was that though.
Maybe there is.
Yeah, there's like stories and folklore, you know, in various different cultures where it's like if you eat this, it will keep you strong, you know. There is that going on in there, you know. So, and you can find those stories, you know. So I think there was an awareness that there's, you know, that there's a power in those kind of foods anyway. Yeah. But just not as specifically as we look at it now through the lens of science, you know, and actually like studying things under a microscope and what that bacteria is, or breaking it down like that. Obviously, you know, this is a new thing that we're experiencing now. But yeah, I mean, well, penicillin's bacteria, it's medicine. You know? So it has been looked at in those ways before, but it's just, I think we've got more of a stronger lens on it now.
Definitely, and I think personally, I think it's important to be open-minded. We don't get too obsessed with like the scientific method. It's just one outlook amongst many. I think that it personally, like, it's dead important to just kind of like look at that evidence, like the evidence, which is the rich history of our species and the ways that people have lived and how they've fared in terms of their health and well-being. to me, that's valid. That's really, really valid, and we can learn a huge amount by looking backwards and looking to our ancestry and other cultures around the world and how they live and their health and their well-being. That being said, the science is actually also all there.
Yeah.
It is all there, and we're going through a period now where you've got like the Human Microbiome Project. We're learning more and more about gut health, the microbiome. We're learning more about the central role that gut health plays in overall health. People are starting to reiterate more and more what Hippocrates said back in the day, like about 2,000 years ago, about like how all disease kind of begins in the gut. So, you know, this isn't limited to very specific ailments. We're learning more and more about the role that gut health plays in like mental well-being, and in terms of treating various different sort of like conditions and things like that. I mean, just through your experience, like, because you've been a chef who's, you know, you're passionate about good food as well. I just want to say this, like, this isn't just about, you know, making food, you know, good for you. Like, you understand food and you understand how to make food divine, right? And you've been a, you know, you were head chef at Roya, Cafe Roya in Beeston, recently for a while. And like you said, you've worked with various different people. I mean, have you worked with people that have experienced certain problems that you're aware that either nutrition generally or probiotics and fermented food more specifically has actually contributed to helping?
Yeah, both aspects.
Anything in particular?
So I sometimes do kind of like one-to-one stuff where I go into people's homes and help them kind of clear out their cupboards of, you know, stuff that isn't really valid or has got no nutritional value to it, and get them a plan together of like ways in which they can eat to start kind of supporting their health, because they might have some illness or ailment that they're specifically trying to address. The workshops that I've done with Together Against Cancer, you know, bringing stuff like kombucha and fermented foods to people that go and use those services and drop in there, and, you know, their accounts of how it's impacted their lives and their well-being. So yeah, just food overall, you know. But then the way that I see it, if you're eating like a really kind of like mostly plant-based diet, you know, as organic as you can get it, and I know that's a struggle for people because people kind of think, okay, well that's more expensive or it's harder to get my hands on that stuff. You know, I'm a big believer in people kind of going to the source of stuff and connecting with their communities and stuff, so they go and find out, you know, where your local allotments are or community gardens and things like that, projects like that, where you can just go and source the foods, you know. I just think, yeah, it's just more about connecting back to source, and we're so out of touch with that, you know. But yeah, I've seen lots of case studies and examples of people that I've personally worked with where their health has been massively changed and enhanced by cleaning up their diet and bringing fermented foods into the diet as well.
Wonderful. All right, cool. We're going to come back in a little bit. I would like to learn a little bit more about kombucha, because you mentioned kombucha, something that you're passionate about, and you make the best kombucha.
You do.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to have a little chill with my man Matt, right, bro? So, happy birthday again, my friend.
Thank you.
Are you not feeling too worse for wear?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's all good.
Dena's brewed sorted me out this week.
Good. So, all right, let's start with, like, how did we meet?
Well, you've been good mates with my bro for a while, and I had a friend of mine who was poorly, who was suffering from cancer, and Luke put me in touch with you. This was a couple of years ago now, wasn't it? and we met up at the house, and you gave me a breakdown of the basics of fermented food and how it operates with the gut and the microbiome, and you educated me on bioavailable nutrition through eating fermented food. So we'd already put a plan together for my friend in terms of getting his nutrition right, an holistic approach to helping him heal, and then obviously incorporating fermented food. And you just blew my head. You absolutely blew my head that first time we met, because I had no idea that fermented food is important to creating that environment for you to heal. I went off on a mad one. I was just like, right, fermented food, I need to learn about fermented food. And then I started looking at myself as well as my friend, thinking, well, I try and eat a reasonably clean diet anyway. As you know, I'm a big grower.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm aware of all that, but I wasn't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing my friend's journey by incorporating that into his diet as well as other things he was doing, and seeing him heal, it was a big alarm call for me. I'm like, well, maybe, yes, I try and, as much as I can, create that environment for myself. Well, I need to incorporate this into my own lifestyle. And that was my journey, really, I suppose. Seeing my friend heal, and he's well now as well.
Mm-hmm.
And learning about it for myself and for my children and my community, my family, and just saying, right, with Mr. Trickier, everything's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
We've got convenient food, we've got convenient this, convenient that. Well, it's probably inconvenient for you in terms of a health structure. So that was my start, really. Meeting you and you making me aware and educating me, and got me excited.
Respect,
as well as the fact that you were creating great tasting ferments and the boochers and stuff. So for me, it became, I don't know, almost like an addiction. I think that's the only way I can describe it.
Compulsive once you start. It's like you've got a little magic kind of laboratory going on when you first start getting into it.
So that was my starting point for me, meeting you and also seeing what impact you were doing on the community in terms of a positive thing. And I wanted a piece of that pie, I think. And that's what it was.
Beautiful, bro. And it's interesting, it makes me remember, actually. I remember we sat outside in the sun and you popped round to pick up some veg. And then we were chatting about Trinity Farm, and we was talking about biodynamic veg and that sort of thing. And then I remember you telling me that you'd start to get some veg boxes delivered from Trinity Farm. Fast forward, and now you're working for Praxis Probiotics.
Amazing, amazing full circle.
Every Monday you're at Trinity Farm using their biodynamic ingredients. You're creating large batches of exquisite fermented vegetables. You've developed a significant array of your own varieties.
Yeah, Matt's ferments are really, really nice. I'm a big fan of Matt's ferments.
Thank you. Well, coming from you, that's definitely a big compliment.
They're very tasty, Matt. Very tasty.
Thank you.
So we're in where are you? We're at the end of October now. It's we've got a couple of days before November kicks in, and you've been fermenting veg with Praxis Probiotics since about May.
Yes,
I think, man.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about maybe 4 months, 5 months. My maths ain't great. How's that been, bro? Because what I mean is, I don't mean, I'm not looking for any propaganda. I'm asking, how have you found being a fermentalist? Daily.
I would suggest it feels like an add-on, but a positive add-on. I've been fortunate enough that I've grown up in a family where we all learn different varieties of flavours. And I've ate well, I've ate good food, I've got a very, very varied amount of culture in the family, so I understand palate, flavour. And in terms of starting from May to now, in my head it's been about how can I encourage those that know nothing about fermented food to eat it. So let's address what do people eat every day. So most people will on a Friday night order a curry, or most people on a Friday night order a Thai takeaway. So I'm like, right, okay. How can I get someone that will go, oh, sauerkraut, to eat something that's not necessarily what they think it is? So how can they relate to it? And that's probably been my journey since May, to try and incorporate them flavours that people put on their plate every single day into a fermented food, so they're getting the health benefits from it and enjoying it from a palate perspective. So yeah, it's been great. I love it.
How's the feedback been, bro?
I think it's been positive.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest, it's been all right. I've not seen anybody go "Ugh," yet. So I suppose and if Dena Smiles likes you ferment, then you're doing something okay, or you're on the right level. So yeah, it's been great, and it's been great working with you guys, and it's been great. You both inspire me, and I learn something from you both every day. And I think I learn from myself every day. And I've noticed through starting fermented food a few years ago, the benefit it's had on me, because obviously the lifestyle I've got, a family, and I work late nights, but just incorporating that into my diet, I noticed a big change, and it was literally overnight. For me, it was probably a week.
Yeah, it's quick, isn't it?
It's really quick.
Yeah.
And the instant boost you get from fermented food is incredible. I mean, your super kraut, I remember giving it to my son when he was poorly, and he said within 20 or 30 seconds he felt this come over him, like someone put a rocket to his backside. And it's them. That was his terminology. So it's them little things, when you see how valid and important it is that people learn about it and don't be scared by it. And like you say, when cultures have been doing this for thousands of years, and we're rediscovering something that's already been discovered. So yeah, I think it's really important that we send this message out and encourage people to familiarise themselves with it. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right then. Before we wrap up part one,
Yeah.
just quickly, anybody got any good ideas? Let's just do this now.
Okay.
For any decent sort of like festive crowds. What can we do festive-wise? Brussels sprouts, cranberries.
Cranberries.
What are you saying?
Brussels.
Not too many.
Brussels
How do they
are really
ferment? How do they ferment?
I have fermented them, but when you ferment like really dark green stuff, it's intense. The smells and everything.
I gathered that when I did that super
Yeah.
green kraut, it was quite potent.
I mean, they would be nice. Brussels. I've done Brussels with almonds, like almond slivers.
What about something with cranberries and nuts?
Yeah, cranberries and nuts, all that kind of business. Them spices, all those things, cloves and cardamom and all that business.
Yeah. If you've got any
Orange
suggestions,
peel.
if anybody out there has got any suggestions, if you've got any requests for any festive crowds, then please holler and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll
All
definitely put that together.
So right then, we're gonna wrap this up now, but there'll be a part 2, and we're gonna delve into some of these different issues that we've just touched on in a little bit more detail. Thank you for joining us, Matt Wynne, Dena Smiles.
Love to you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thrive together.